pretty substantial power, but probably as powerful and as quick in terms of acceleration as this.
Yeah, what I've actually done is, there's the phone again, Peter.
All right.
Sorry, hold on a second.
I wonder.
Eddie, I'm not going to bend it. I told you, I'm just doing an interview at the moment. Thanks, Eddie, I'm not going to bend it.
Well, David's busy talking to Eddie Jordan, very worried about his car, because I said it's off to the Nürburgring after this, but we certainly wish David the best of luck this afternoon on a stint around Mondello in the Jordan 199. Well, with me now is Martin Brain, owner of Mondello Park, and of course owner now of Lola Cars as well. It's been a very exciting year for you, Martin, but I suppose this is very exciting as well to finally see a Jordan run at Mondello Park.
Yes, it is, Peter. This is a high watermark for Mondello Park, for Irish motor racing, and I'm very grateful to Eddie Jordan and the Jordan team for sending this car over here. This is fantastic. I'm also grateful to my friend David Kennedy, who's also director of Mondello Park, who's going to take this out, although I hate him for it. I'd love to be doing it myself. I would also like to welcome a contingent of the Ballina Motor Club, my old town.
Yes, indeed, we have two gentlemen here from Ballina Motor Club, and a special presentation being made here this afternoon to Martin Brain. Gentlemen.
On behalf of Ballina Motor Club, I'd like to make a presentation to Martin Brain, a native son of Ballina, for his contribution to motorsport.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Best of luck to you. Thank you, John.
Well, as you can see, thankfully the weather has held off here at Mondello Park this afternoon, and all during yesterday when the downpour was taking place. I know David was one worried driver, hoping of course to run the Jordan this afternoon in dry conditions, and that's exactly what we have at the circuit, and it really is a very momentous occasion. The Jordan 199 being driven around the Mondello Park circuit for the very first time. Extraordinary to think that Eddie Jordan entered Formula 1 motor racing in 1991, and finally we've got one of his cars to drive in anger here at an Irish circuit. It really is a wonderful day, and what a sight it looks there. As you can see, David making final preparations. The Jordan mechanics and engineers have been here since early morning preparing the car. As you'll notice when we see the car out on the circuit, it's running with a very high downforce spec, because of course this is a relatively tight circuit. No Monza settings here, Declan, on this particular occasion, but the car certainly looks splendid, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think more like Monaco settings. There are more bits and pieces on that back wing and that front wing. They're trying to keep this thing nailed to the track. It's just amazing work just to get the car here. As David said, it's a great privilege for Peter and myself and David to be at the Grand Prix circuits every fortnight. And I mean, I come here regularly when I'm not at the Grand Prix, and to see the two put together is just a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful day for Irish motorsport, and it just shows just how far Eddie Jordan has come, that we've got a vehicle such as this. You know, this machine pumps out over 800 brake horsepower. Jordan claim it's something over 710 brake horsepower. It's actually over 800 brake horsepower. An extraordinary machine. I've just got out of a Formula V that pumps out about 80, and it's just fabulous to see it here today, and I'm looking forward to it now in the next few minutes.
Yes, and there you can see on the front of the cockpit there, that's the steering wheel. Of course, these instruments have become extremely technical in recent years. Most of the controls that the driver has to concern himself with throughout a Grand Prix are contained on and within that steering wheel, including the readouts from the telemetry. That is situated on the top of the steering wheel there. And also, one thing David will have 3 laps to get used to are, of course, the paddles at the front of the steering wheel. The gear paddles, and of course the clutch paddle, which is only used for the start. So I think, Declan, that's his biggest worry this afternoon, because of course in David's racing days, of course the foot clutch was the clutch to be used, but of course now in Formula 1 everybody uses the hand clutch. In fact, Damon Hill, I think, was the last driver to stay on a foot clutch, but it really is difficult, David was saying, because of course there's very little sensitivity in that clutch.
That's right, you can't actually feel the biting point in the actual lever itself. I know the last time David used a hand clutch was when he was riding motorbikes as a teenager, and that's a while ago now. They're taking the tyre covers off now. They've heated the tyres up to operating temperature, so that's going to make it a little bit... Wow, and listen to that sound. The car's been fired up. Listen to that fabulous V10 Mugen Honda engine, 800 brake horsepower. I wonder what's going through David's mind now.
Well, I'm sure he's concentrating totally on getting this car away cleanly. He's been speaking with the Jordan race engineers all morning with a view to getting the car away properly and quickly. And it looks like it's a smooth start as David Kennedy sets off in that Super Jordan 199, the roar of the moving Honda V10 as he heads up towards Toyota Corner for the very first time. Now, over these 3 laps we're going to see in this early part of the afternoon, David will be getting a feel of the car. Remember, this is a vastly different car from anything he has driven before. He has driven Formula 1 cars before, but of course this is current spec F1 at its finest. This Jordan car will depart for the Nürburgring directly after the meeting here in Mondello Park this afternoon, and this is the spare car which will be in the garage at the Nürburgring for next weekend's European Grand Prix. So as David was saying, Eddie Jordan certainly doesn't want him to dent it this afternoon. A highly valuable piece of equipment, and how wonderful it looks now heading out around the relatively new international Mondello circuit.
Yeah, I think if he dents it, he's going to have to own it. I think that was the instruction from Eddie Jordan. But look at the crowd. I mean, as he comes back into the paddock section, we'll see what an enormous crowd have turned out here today, just illustrating the sort of support there is for the Jordan Grand Prix team in Formula 1. We saw the tricolours at Monza for Heinz-Harald Frenzen's race win last week, and there's a smattering of that amount of people here today, times 10 in fact, and it's wonderful. And I think it's a great experience for David as well, a former Formula 1 driver, a contemporary, a racing contemporary of Eddie Jordan's, and I know that his heart is swelling with pride at this experience.
Absolutely, what a huge thrill it is for him to drive a Jordan 199 around what is very much the home of Irish motor racing. It's where David Kennedy and many other famous Irish motor racing drivers cut their teeth down through the years. This is where it all started for him. And now, of course, he's driving a state-of-the-art machine around Mondello Park, where he is now, of course, a director of the circuit. And it's great to see such wonderful work being done by the Mondello Park people. They'll soon begin work on the pit garages and hope to host some pretty significant international races in the coming years. So, lap number 1 completed, and you can see the back of the car there stepping out as he lays down on power. Over 700 brake horsepower as he heads down the main straight here at Mondello Park into Toyota once again. Of course, this one of the classic corners, a beautiful corner to drive. I've only had one experience of it myself in race trim, but of course, Declan, you've been out there earlier today, and that's a lovely sequence there.
It's beautiful. In fact, the track there today, it's dry, thank God, but it's actually at this stage of the weekend has very little grip. There's been a lot of oil and rubber down, so David is going to have to take it very gingerly. We see that stepping out. I know when he had his seat fitting and his systems check at Monza last week, after his initial one at Silverstone, he was just gobsmacked by the how short the throttle travel is. It's basically a switch. It's either 0 bhp or 800 bhp at the flick of the switch, and he's going to take it gingerly for these first couple of laps, just work his way into it, just to get the feel of it. I know he was talking to John Watson, former Grand Prix winner from Northern Ireland, at the race last week, and John drove a Grand Prix car a few years ago, and he said it's beyond his sphere of reference. He'll have nothing to compare it to. It's an extraordinary vehicle. For those of you of a technical bent, it's 600 kilograms with the driver, and that's 800 brake, just pushing 600 kilograms. So that's some idea of the power to weight ratio. It's a full carbon composite monocoque, of course, a 6-speed sequential gearbox, which is operated by semi-automatic flippers. And we've got carbon fibre push rods and wishbones, and extraordinary vehicle, Peter.
Absolutely wonderful to see the Jordan 199 here at Mondello Park being driven by David Kennedy, former F1 pilot, of course. And it's not that David Kennedy hasn't been used to high speeds in the past, of course. Driven Le Mans on numerous occasions, well used to travelling at speeds well in excess of 200 miles per hour. So it's not the high speeds that will deter him this afternoon. It is, of course, getting used to the sheer power and acceleration into corners and the braking ability of this Jordan 199. Really, it accelerates at a very rapid pace, but it decelerates even quicker, believe it or not. The braking ability of modern Formula 1 cars really is extraordinary, and that's the sort of thing now he's trying to get used to out over these 3 laps. Basically, it's almost like having to learn to drive all over again. It's a completely different animal to the sort of machine David drove back in the 70s and 80s, but I'm sure, Declan, this is a huge thrill, and there are many of us who wouldn't be able to do this, but would absolutely love to be out there.
Buzzing Hornets, it says on the side, but I think it's actually buzz for David, a bigger buzz for David Kennedy. Talking about the brakes, they're carbon composite brakes with carbon pads as well. Now David does know those from his sports car days, but getting them up to operating temperature is quite tricky, and that is by all accounts the most impressive thing about a modern Formula 1 car. 0 to 100 miles an hour and back to 0 in less than 5 seconds. Digest that information. That's an extraordinary statistic.
So it looks like David really is getting used to the handling of this Jordan 199. Earlier on in the week he was testing out a few other cars around Mondello, including a Formula Opel, or Formula Europa as it's referred to these days. He thoroughly enjoyed the feel of that particular car as he got used to the racing line here at Mondello once again. But this is a completely different beast, but he is handling it beautifully, taking it nice and tenderly, as it were, on this first outing. And remember, a little bit later on in the afternoon, well, we'll be having 6 laps with the Jordan 199, and David will be giving it all at that stage. But for the moment, still getting the feel of the car, and coming around now to complete his 3rd and final lap. He'll be coming to a stop on the grid. The mechanics, as always, will go through the telemetry. We know it's only a few demonstration laps here at Mondello, but every ounce of information they get out of this car is used and examined. So a momentous occasion as the Jordan 199 completes its first outing here at Mondello Park. David Kennedy at the wheel. Well, as a reminder, he will be out later on in the afternoon. We'll have more exciting races to come here from Mondello Park, but for the moment we go back to the Curragh.